Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host, Nathaniel. Really pleased to introduce our special guest today, Master Asha Hope. Asha is such a wonderful presence. I had the great fortune of meeting him on school and hearing about his journey is just inspiring, how he's really transformed, a lot of pain, I understand, Asha, and a life that, had, connections to criminality, to addiction. You've overcome all of these things. You've helped people to gain financial wealth in some pretty incredible ways. You started your own community now, which is a really incredible community for empowering men. And I'm just really thrilled to have you on here, brother, and to just have a rich conversation with you. So welcome. I just want to ask you to introduce yourself and let our guests know who you are. And yeah, what are you all about, man?
Well, thank you for this beautiful introduction. I think you've already said a lot. So, yeah, I used to be a drug addict and a criminal. I used to sell drugs for more than 10 years. But then one day I woke up, like every morning, I took a line of cocaine as a breakfast. But then that morning I started crying. My body couldn't take it anymore.
Mm,
My life was just covered by all of these things I was doing to pretend that I had strength, to pretend that I was a man. And that day, my life changed. I
mm,
started to let go of all the drugs. I started meditation, and I discovered that actually all the things that I wanted and were inside of me, and I was sourcing them outside of me. I was
mm,
making myself dependent. I don't like the word addiction because the word addiction doesn't really help us. When we say the word dependent, like I'm dependent on weed, I'm dependent on cocaine, I'm dependent on my friends, it really shows that we have an attachment of something that is external to us. So I went into a journey of like discovering myself and discovering that everything that we need is within yourself. And then when we are attached to something that's outside of us, we need to find why we're not allowing ourselves to source it, whether it would be confidence, energy, whatever things you realize that you could have from within, you can. And so I started doing meditation, as I mentioned, and this became one of the things I've been doing the most.
mm,
And coupled with that, I started doing hypnosis, and I've seen how simply by listening to myself and changing the way I think, I could change my life. And
mm,
so now I just really want to share that with people, get people to know that when they get into silence, they're making space between the thoughts. And then they can introduce new thoughts. And then they get new feelings, new thinkings, and then new behaviors. And their life change. And that's
mm,
so easy. So yeah, that's
mm.
that's the reason I think why I'm here today.
That's awesome, man. And I gotta say, like, you have this very inviting, gentle, and very, I love your simplicity. Like I feel like your approach is refreshing because it isn't complicated. You talk a lot about because I've done a few of the hypnosis meditations that you have in the community, and they're really powerful. And you just have this way of invitation into that simplicity of way of being, which to me is like what we all know when we're a child. Like if I watch you just got to meet the little fairy Luciana here before the show, and she's just so in presence, so in wonder, and can switch states so fast. She doesn't have any of those attachments yet that you speak about. And we've had, masters on the planet, Buddha comes to mind about, talking about the power of attachment and how it creates so much suffering. And I'm also like an avid meditator, man. So I can attest to what you're saying about making that space between the thoughts wider and wider. I often tell people, like, there's often huge parts of my day I'm not even thinking. I'm just present. I'm listening to my body. When someone's talking to me, I'm just listening to them. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to say or what I have to do. I'm just there, holding space. And for a lot of people, that is foreign. So how are you helping people kind of open that door to maybe realizing the power that they do have within? And how has that journey been for you?
Well, how I help people is different with everybody.
Yeah.
But really, it's about understanding where they are and understanding that what we need to change is already naturally, inside of us. You were speaking about children's, and therapy came into my life through the master of Osho. Osho is
Mm.
is the first master I met. I didn't meet, but I went to his ashram. And one thing that was very simple is that I explained that the therapies that Osho created, he created them by observing children's and saying, hey, when a child start making noises like blah 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 blah, blah speaking gibberish, he was like, oh, this is very interesting because he saw that the children are expressing emotions that they don't know how to express.
Mm.
And he created a gibberish meditation. He noticed that children's, when they have anger, they just express it. So I really love that because our society suffers from the lack of expression. So listening to yourself is the first thing you have to do, is to see what's happening. You're listening, the observation is really the act of knowing what's happening. And then you need to express the way it makes you feel. And that's why I love art. And I do believe that art is like the best practice for personal development because it allows us to put things, like this hatred about abstract art of like, oh yeah, I could have splattered some paint and make millions, but actually no, because you didn't take your emotions and you didn't put them into that. That's why people like love this, is because there is emotion into art.
Mm.
And when we suffer, when we're in pain, when we're not able to shift, like your kid is shifting from one state to the other, it's because there's an emotion that is stuck. And usually what's happening is the emotion is stuck in the body somewhere,
Mhm.
and the muscles are tense. We have these chronic pains because there is energy there. And so when we express this emotion, the energy is removed from the body and we can move and we can shift from one state to the other very easily. And the more we do that, the more addicted we become to do that because being able to shift from one state to the other is the freedom, is also the safety we need in order to be able to move through life. Because when we cannot change state, we cannot respond to the situation that life is bringing us in the best and optimal way. I for most my life, I was taught to be submissive. Like, oh, when someone tells you something, you accept. When the teacher tells you something, you accept. When the policeman tells you something, you accept. Sorry. And you have to learn to just accept everything and never like just really react the way you want. So when you cannot react the way you want, you feel scared of life
Mm.
because like, oh, if someone comes and tell me something I don't want, I have to say yes. So yeah, it's really about removing the emotion that's blocking us to have more freedom of being, and then everything becomes easier.
Yeah. There's so much wisdom in that, Asha, and I feel like it's such a timely message. A lot of us, especially men, I would say, like I grew up in a household where s expressing emotions, intense emotions, whether it was sadness or anger, was just not. It caused such an upset because especially my father didn't have the capacity because he was shut down, so he didn't know how to handle those emotions, so his natural instinct was to try to calm it. And it's interesting too, like I feel like this is, like you said, it's a societal impact that it's had in limiting our expression, and which we, I think what a lot of people don't realize, in whatever way we're suppressing, whether it's overeating or shopping or taking pills to numb the pain, or like you said, drugs, like if you're limiting the pain side of the emotions, whether it's anger or sadness, you're also limiting the joy and the exuberance of life. And you're it's like you're closing in, and then you're just creating this little blinder life, and this people talk about like quiet desperation and stuff. People have so much beauty inside themselves, but you have to take that leap of courage. So I love that you say, because I feel like every master on earth, a true master, a true teacher, works with people in a way that is right for them. There's no formulaic way of saying, okay, meditate this way, do this, go say 100 of these things, and you'll be okay. So, what has been your most fulfilling, you know, uh, experience with working with other individuals, helping them to find then connect to that voice on their journey?
Most fulfilling. I think it's really the moment where I realized I had an influence on the life of someone. And that
Mm,
happened to me in the very beginning when I was not very good as a coach, not very certified. I had met this woman in a yoga class, and we had some exchange for a few weeks, and then at one point I we lost contact.
mm,
But then after 1 month, she called me and she had a very weak voice, and she was like, "Yeah, could we speak?" And I was like, "Okay, there's a problem." So it's like, let me get on my scooter. I'll drive to your place and we'll speak together. I arrived at her place. She was living in a bedroom apartment with gray walls, very sad. She was very thin. She was anorexic,
mm,
and I had this moment where I saw her because her lips were wider than her skin.
mm,
And she was letting herself die from anorexia, and I was like, okay, something into me, it was just like, okay, I have to do anything I can in my life.
mm,
So I made her the biggest lie because she was like, yeah, Monday I have to go to work and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, you know what? Come to my place for the weekend at least. And in my mind, it was like, you're gonna have to stay until you're better. And I brought her back to my place. I had a guest bedroom, so I put her there. And every day I was like, spending some time with her and helping her find back joy into her life. And like I felt so good to have that person. I never even thought about asking for money, whatever. I just felt like I have to help that person. And it really connected to something within me,
mm,
extremely powerful, like this is being a human, like you see someone who is in distress, you can help them. You don't know how to help them because I never had helped someone with anorexia and I didn't even know, what it entails. I only have heard about this problem, but then seeing someone who is not able to eat a slice of tomato, like I like, hey, I have a tomato, I could cut slice. She told me that her favorite food was tomatoes. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy the best tomato, but she ate a slice and then she puked it a few minutes later, like it's a really extreme condition. But in a matter of a week, spending time with her, doing some work with her, she found back life and she ate a huge bowl of salad afterwards,
mm, mm,
Then a few years later, she became a hypnotherapist like myself.
mm,
So I really saw that there was an impact. So that's, like that feeling of like doing something that's good, that makes me feel like a human, that makes me feel like there's no ego, there's just giving and observing someone grow, and sometimes receiving a voice note from a client 1 year after I've worked with them and saying, hey man, I'm looking back at my life now and I see 1 year ago you helped me, but I couldn't grasp how much your work was impacting me. And now 1 year later I'm looking myself, I'm like, wow, so this is it even gives me chills talking
mm,
about this,
mm,
like receiving feedback not after the work but like a long time after the work, and people saying like, wow, actually there is something so powerful, like what I really understood is that I'm not helping someone one day to feel better. It's really giving them a new trajectory into life. Like you're here, you have like when you take drugs, you feel good for the moment you take the drug, and then you go back to the same cycle. But when you do deep transformational work, you literally take them from one train track and you move them on another train track, and they cannot go back to the past because already they feel better on a daily basis. It's natural for them to feel better, but then it just works automatically for them to just stay on that road. So that I think is the most fulfilling thing in my work, is really like seeing the long term and long lasting effect of what I do onto people, and then like, yeah, talking with them later and being like, oh, something has changed and it did influence you. So yeah.
there's so much beauty there, man. I mean, it's a special individual who will bring someone in who needs help into their space and help them and seek nothing in return. And I love how you talk about that making you feel human. It's a really beautiful message because I feel like humanity has been told this completely opposite narrative of what being a human is. I think I am totally in alignment with what you talk about being human. I feel like the more we are like our creator, whatever we want to call that, and we see our create like whether you look at the earth, and Mother Nature as just giving, giving, giving. It doesn't ask for anything in return. The sun just gives and gives and gives. Like there's so many examples of this, and I feel like we really limit ourselves when we just engage in life transactionally. Like I'll do this for you if you do this for me, and life is limited. But when you just want to help people and of course, we need return, but you like what you said is you open yourself up to feeling so good helping others. That's naturally gonna create a flow of mutual reciprocation of abundance. So I think it's a really beautiful story, Asha, and like you have obviously gone through your own deep inner transformation to be able to arrive at a place to help someone in that to that level of depth. And when you talked about her eating the bowl of salad, I mean, that's just so heartwarming to see someone, go who's in such in so need of help to have that, and then years later to also take steps to becoming a hypnotherapist like yourself. I mean, that's beautiful, man. And so thank you for helping people, and thank you for being of service and for doing your inner work. It's really wonderful. So
Oh,
what now? You're a community builder now. Like, what are you focused on? What's your higher vision?
well, thank you for your acknowledgement. My vision now is really it's interesting because I had so many women. It really the desire to working on men really came when I was living in Bali, and I had so many women coming to me. I was like, oh, and as you said, like this flow of energy and this abundance, we need to have that harmony between the opposite, because abundance is not possession, it's not emptiness, it's the movement from emptiness to possession. Like you're abundant when you create things. Having orange juice is not abundance. Having an orange tree which will produce orange juice
Mhm.
is abundance, is the ability
Mhm.
to produce. So we need a movement, and the
Mhm.
better quality we put into that movement, the better result we have, and everybody has it. So I really felt like, okay,
Mhm.
there is this thing about masculinity, and I wanna do something about it. And on social media at the time, and still now, there's a lot of fighting between the toxic things, and
Mhm.
masculinity is toxic, and we don't really talk about what femininity is. And it's interesting because on the other level, when we see is that what masculinity is the energy of the physical, and femininity is the energy of the ethereal. So in a way, seeing the toxic masculinity is normal, because the physical is the masculine. So when we see it in the feminine is the invisible. So we should not see what's toxic in the femininity. So it's very interesting, and I felt like I wanna change that. I wanna create something for men where they feel that they're in their purpose, and creating a community is the thing. It's my challenge, because I've always been the lone rider, like a little bit like Mad Max. I would help people, but I would always be on my own bike, and I would not really want to connect with people.
Mhm.
So this is, I think, like the thing I really need to learn,
Mhm.
is to really connect with people, and create this thing and be part of something. And then, yeah, I realized that creating abundance, helping men to reconnect with their power, reconnect with abundance, because ego has been really taking a huge spot into the world of money, the world of power.
Mhm.
But power is such a beautiful thing when it's well used.
Mhm.
When we use our power in a right way, we can enjoy it. So my bigger vision is really to help men to reconnect with who they are deeply, and not forget their dreams,
Mhm.
but use their energy into creating these dreams in a way that is of service to others rather than of service to the ego. Because there's not one thing that is wrong. It's just the intention that is behind. I can help you for my ego, but I can help you for the greater purpose of my soul, and
Mm,
that is the thing. So it's really understanding, am I doing something from a place of ego, am I doing it from a place of like wanting to serve a greater purpose? Because I do believe that being the best into something can be coming from a very egoistic place, but also from a place of like, hey, I want to push the boundary of what's
mm,
possible. Like the guy who was like, like I'm gonna run faster than anybody and show that the human body can run faster,
yeah.
and show that we can do so much more. So yeah, really helping men tap into their potential and just find that power, because masculinity is so beautiful. And
Mm,
when it's used in a beautiful way, it just so attractive to women as well. So I really want men to work on themselves, on their sexuality, in order to, when they show up in front of women, to be really different.
mm,
And I want to put a point here of like working on your masculinity, on your sexuality, on your own, not in mirror of femininity. Because for a long time, and a lot of people I work with, they're like, oh, but right now I'm not in a relationship, so why should I work on my sexuality? Because we're sexual being at our core. We have that sexual energy that gives us capacity of manifesting things. And if we work on ourselves in order to just please women, we're not working on creating who we are. So really taking a moment to just separate ourselves from everything that we believe exists
mm.
and then just find who we are.
Yeah, really important conversation, Asha. And I don't know if you and I have chatted about this at all, but so much of what you said is actually echoed in Christ's letters to us. And he talks about a lot, funny enough, about the importance of the relationship between men and women and the nature of our sexual relationship being so important. So, I mean, you're not gonna read that in the Bible, but he does talk about how important it is, especially when couples come together and have sex, especially if it is unprotected, how important it is to have unconditional love between the two as well, because it affects. There's a consciousness exchange,
Yeah.
and so many of the problems I think in our world that we're seeing are that imbalance. I mean, Mantak Chia talks about this too from a Taoist perspective. He says that the all the wars and things we're seeing play out are actually from the microcosm, the man who has not learned how to cultivate his sexual energy, who is depleting himself and um, feeling like intimidated, subconsciously by the women's, basically the energy of, like you said, the ether, and that they try to dominate women physically, and then it leads to all these imbalances in life, because it all comes down to a question of really not knowing who we really are. And I love how you talk about the ego really, claiming a place that it really never was intended. I mean, we need an ego to get us out of bed, to feed us, for survival. But my understanding of Christ's true teachings is that he taught us how to overcome the ego and showed us, hey, when you are truly in alignment with your soulful self, with the truth of who you are, we are capable of so much more as a species. And what we bring into the world, when it's in harmony with our creative power, it is so much more beautiful than I think we even are beginning, we can even realize at this place on our journey as a species. So I really appreciate this perspective, and I don't think there's enough talk about sexuality and healthy divine masculinity. I feel like it's such an important conversation because we've seen this pendulum in society where there's been a lot of man bashing and from the first wave of feminism was really important because women need to be uplifted and revered as the divine expression of femininity. That's so valuable, but not at the expense of putting down men. And I feel like we've seen that. So there's this counterculture of like and it creates this clash. But really, the best families, the best communities, the best world is going to be when men and women are equal and mutually supportive of one another's energy. So I love that you're helping men to reconnect with their true essence. It's really important.
Yeah. Uh, so there's a few things that I really appreciate of what you say. Like for to touch on the ego, I think the ego is a very beautiful thing. It is what allows us to have a unique path and discover what is the divine. Because in the same way, when you're at night, you don't know what the day is until the sun rises.
Mhm.
So the ego is like the night, and then when the sun is rising, like, oh, okay, so that was the ego, and then it gives you kind of like a labyrinth from which you have to come out in order to just come back to your divine self. So it's a very beautiful thing we have the ego because that's what allows us to write the story we have. Sometimes we don't like it because some egos put us into a more favorable place in society, like some
Mhm.
people have this ego where they're like making a lot of money and they're being valued. Oh, look, this guy is doing well. But then the ego is really what makes us unique and allow us to find that path on life. And what you were saying about, like, yeah, being in harmony when we make love and Mantak Shia, and what I learned from and understood from his teaching. And to me, it made sense why major religions are suppressing sexuality. Not, I don't know how it was historically, but when I look at it from a point of energy, Kundalini energy, sexual energy, is a multiplier of whatever we have within our heart. So if your heart is pure and you only have love, when the Kundalini energy comes, you're gonna have a lot of love. But there's a lot of people who make love, sex from a very angry place or like from like a place, no, a negative place. And we see that a lot on what's being played on internet
Mhm.
and all of the ways that are negative on sexuality, the way we use women and stuff like that, and people using sex as a way to remove stress. Like I've been guilty of this, and a lot of men are using masturbation and sex in order to remove stress and they don't have any pleasure from that. So when they're doing that, what they're doing is energetic, they're multiplying that negative energy
Mhm.
and they're depleting their sexual energy through that. But then when you learn to cultivate your sexual energy and opening your heart first you should really open your heart as much as you can and then cultivate your sexual energy. So when it grows, when it goes up, it just multiply the love and multiply the abundance. So that's, I think, one of the reasons maybe in history they suppress sexuality, say, hey, you're not able to manage your emotions, so don't multiply them.
Mhm.
Just, when I was listening to Mantak share saying these kind of things, like in my mind it made it seem like logical, not wanting to say that they did the right thing, but I would say it's maybe a way to help the story.
Mhm. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. I totally agree with the ego giving us the story. The way I see it is we are all of us as individual beings of consciousness are drawn from a much an unfathomable universal consciousness, and the only way we can truly individuate and have this journey is through the ego. And it is a beautiful thing. I like to think of it almost like it gives us our caterpillar journey and gives us the chrysalis that we have to struggle through to eventually emerge as the butterflies we were all intended to be. And Christ talks a lot about this in the letters, and I think it's so important for this time because you know it's a very different life when you approach life as as this experience of one of preparation, one of service, one of giving, compared to, like you said, there's a lot of the ego drive can be celebrated. The ones who have the private jets or are doing all these things. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that stuff. However, when that's idolized and seen as that is what happiness is, I mean, a world with 8.8 billion people all having private jets is a pretty lonely world. you know I think we're meant for so much more, especially when we come into our spiritual gifts and what is truly possible when we are in alignment. So you know just circling back to this higher vision, as you're connecting, helping men connect with their higher essence, you have so much wisdom to offer, Asha. Where do you see the potential of our species unfolding, and what would you love to see as we're entering an era where there's a lot more technological advancements? There's so many questions. How would you like to see things unfold? What's your wish for humankind?
It's a very good question. Well, what I wish for is people to accept what is, because we're too much caught up on trying to create something new, something next. And when we just slow down and look at everything we already have, we already have so much things, we already have so much abundance. And so my desire would be for human to slow down, because
Mm,
there's a lot of things we already are able to do. We just need to cultivate it, like we already have huge amount of technology within ourselves. I perceive all digital tech and all of the things that we're creating as an outsourcing of what's already within, like without going too much into the mystical, like, but today we have people who are showing that it is possible to do telepathy, it is possible to do remote viewing, and these are not things that like the government are saying no. Like there is studies from the CIA on telepathy, on remote viewing, so this technology exists within us.
mm,
And what I think would be amazing is that we would live in a society where the people who have these gifts would use them for the people who don't have. But we live in a society where we separate everything. Instead of being like, hey, there would be in the village one guy who knows how to do telepathy and remote viewing. And instead of everybody having a smartphone, we go to see this guy like, hey, can you see what's happening in the next village? So we have some news from them. So I think the level of separation we live in is also being shown off in the technology, in the need of everybody having their own thing. Like I don't think it's a problem to want to travel in a private jet. What I think is the problem is wanting to own it and having just for yourself.
mm,
And the ability of sharing, when we remove the need of owning things and be like, oh, let's share everything, let's have everything together, and really going into this community spirit, being like, do I need to have a laptop? Like for example, my laptop, I don't need it for a whole day, like I need it for 3, 4 hours a day, and then the rest of the time someone else could be using it.
mm, mm,
And really learning to detach yourself from owning things and sharing more and being more into this. Okay, there are some things that you want to have just for yourself. You want, I have my bracelet that are made just for me, so I want just me to wear them. But like really opening yourself to giving back space to
mm,
things. Like
mm,
some people, like society, we have this single-minded way of like this is how it should be. We want to all be winning the same way. So we are opening more into like let's win differently. Like
mm.
what is that truly makes you happy? You were saying like the problem is when we believe that having a private jet is what makes happiness. Like let's ask ourselves, what is making me happy? How can I fulfill my dreams instead of like running in the same wall as everybody?
Mm. Yeah. So there's so much wisdom in what you shared, and several years ago when we were seeing all the acceleration, I talked to a few elders about that, and you said the very same thing they said, and they've been telling us for a long time because this time we are in it has been prophesized by many different indigenous cultures all over the world, and they have said, when times start to speed up, it's very important to slow down, and I think there's so much wisdom in that, and it can be in a lot of ways, like you mentioned at the beginning, making time for meditation. It might, to a lot of maybe entrepreneurs, it's like, wow, that's a waste of time. I'm just sitting there doing nothing. I'm listening, but finding that space in between those moments can be so valuable, and then making time like you as you talked about the sunrise coming up and in contrast to the ego that maybe blinds us to a lot of the beauty in life. I feel like there are lots of little ways that we can make that space and slow down, whether it's being really present with someone when they're talking with us, spending time playing with children, going in nature and just immersing in just the ineffable beauty that is around us everywhere. it's in refracted light. It's in doing art, like you said, and making time for expression. There's so many ways we can slow down. So I think that's really, really a valuable reminder, Asha. And I really appreciate your wisdom. So you know, you have this clearly a higher mission that has led you to serving people. And what do you, now that you're kind of being challenged to be in community, how is that showing up in your life since you're used to doing your own thing, being a lone wolf, and now all of a sudden you have people who are gathering around you. How has that changed your perspective, and what is it opening up for you?
Well, I really learned that the the more I'm connecting with people, the more power I have, because there's this belief that I had the belief that the more money I would have, the more power I would have. But it's been in 1 year I've been living in an ashram, and I
Mm,
realize that there is something powerful when you have this vision, when you have this dream, that is so powerful that people believe in it. So the guru Amma that is creating this movement has millions of followers around the world who work for her for free. There's a lot of volunteers. And when I see someone like Sadhguru as well has volunteers who just give their time. And I find this is magnificent when you have a vision that is so beautiful that people are willing to give everything. I think that is the desire I have in community is really helping people to see that the network we have is an extension of our personal power.
mm,
Like when I cannot do something, you can do it. And if I just do what feels like play for me, and I can do a lot of it, I have more energy. When I'm doing what I love, I have more energy
mm,
doing it. And so I can do so much more. And see, if you do that, and we just exchange and don't expect anything from each other, but we know that we're gonna be there for each other, there's this magic that's happening. And I think humans, when we're like children, we just want to play.
mm,
So that's the idea of community. Is just my desire is I want to help entrepreneurs, and just really remove the pain from working, remove the feeling that I have to work, remove the feeling that work is something difficult. To just really bring back the playfulness. That's what in school is interesting, because there's this idea of playing, and the course I'm creating right now, it's called Orgasmic Money, is because I'm using the feeling of orgasm that we can create through our own decision to really make you feel good, and just being that ecstatic state of like, I just want to have fun.
mm.
And then when I started doing this, I just having people, I'm having a more compassion to people. I see people who are just angry, like grinding and pushing, and I'm just in this positive energy, just want to give to them. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just giving it to you, and then you do whatever you want with it. And that is what I want. Like really bringing back people to that playfulness that they were had when they were children. Well, it's okay, you fail, it's okay. We're just here to play. Like
Mm.
when I had my dog, I remember looking at him. You throw the ball, he's gonna run, he's gonna fall. He just come back, and he doesn't care how many times he does it. He knows he's just gonna do it as long as he has energy to do it. So
Yeah.
like having that playfulness, just bringing back ourselves to forgetting to be serious. And I kind of like don't like the word serious because it has been associated to the word drama. Like when people are saying I'm serious, it's like they're more dramatic than serious, because you can be serious and funny in the same time. You can just be
Yeah.
very serious and be super funny.
Yeah.
And the proof is that there are comedians who are talking about very serious things, like they're
Mhm,
they're talking about politics, they're talking about the problems of life and just making fun of it.
mhm, mhm,
Being able to bring back the playfulness into what we do is so important. And just like, yeah, as you said, slowing down and appreciating things, because when we enjoy something, when something is good, we want it to take as much time as we want. Like the only times I want to rush, the only times I want things to go faster is because I'm bored, because I feel like I'm not good enough. And like when I'm thinking about it, only the moments when I want to go fast is when I'm doing a race, like when I want to win something, when I'm riding a bicycle, whatever I'm driving, I want to go fast just for the adrenaline of thing. Because generally in life, when I'm making love, when I'm eating chocolate, when I'm doing something I appreciate, I want it to take as much time as I can. And it's the thing that I don't like that I want to go fast. So yeah, learning when you enjoy things, you want them to last longer.
Mm. It's a really interesting perspective of time. It reminds me of something I learned from a few sources, but this idea that we are the source of time and that time really does change depending on our state of consciousness. And play, I agree, man. I think the reason children have so much energy and can run all day long is because they do. And there, we get to a certain point when we, like you said, there's a problem of suppressed expression. We just think it's not cool to run and yell and be like so silly with life because our peers are judging us for it. So there's this peer pressure, and I feel like a lot of our imbalances come from the institutionalization of our children, and putting them through this like conveyor belt system of like you only hang out with children your age, and then we're preparing you for the workforce. And part of the vision I see as we enter into a new era is really breaking down those silos, rejoining the elders in our society with the children, because it's such a mutual relationship. The elders get to pass their stories, their teachings, their wisdom, and then they get to live vicariously their youthfulness and laugh and play with the children. And I feel like our society, when it's ageist, we lose just that magic. And I feel like a lot of societies have the ones who are the healthiest on our planet have still maintained these community kind of models, and like Julia, when she traveled through Southeast Asia, she said she saw a lot of children, who had absolutely nothing, just playing in the mud, and they were happy as ever, way happier. It's rare to even see children now in the neighborhoods that we are here. There's like screen addictions, and I think that even furthers the problem of expression and creativity, right? Because a lot of people are not using screens for those things. You can intentionally use these tools, but it's not there. So, and I just want to also, uh, just say this too. I feel like it's important, the men, because I was doing some projects with the Mankind Project when I was out west and going to circles and stuff. And what I realized doing that work is it's so important. Like, obviously everyone in a family unit is essential, but when the man is well and he has the role of, and I know there's all kinds of dynamics, and it's there's no formula to this, but a lot of men are providers for the family. They have that masculine drive that's, holding that family together. And when they're not well, when they are in, addictive patterns or attached patterns, and they're seeking, it really causes a lot of turmoil in the house. So I think it's such valuable work that you are specifically helping men reconnect with that essence within them, Asha. So I appreciate it very much.
Thank you. Like to come back to time, time is a measure of rhythm. Like
Mm,
we forgot that the ticking of the clock is a rhythm, like in music,
mm,
back, 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 back. And we can go a rhythm faster or we go on a rhythm slower,
mhm,
you know. And we all created this belief that the rhythm that we decided for the clock is the rhythm that rules our lives, like.
mhm,
And but actually the real rhythm of our lives is like first like the astrological clock. The sun is the thing,
mhm.
but then the rhythm of our bodies is what is really our clock. Our clock
Yeah.
is the rhythm of the body, like you or stress or heartbeat. That's the rhythm that we live on. And the more we source energy naturally from ourselves, the more energy we have. And the more like we're sleepy, the more we sleep, so
Mhm,
it's crazy. Like the more you so we can really hack that. It's crazy. And yeah, we need to go back to being like children. I'm very sorry to hear about this screen addiction. This is a really bad thing that's happening. And
mhm.
I'm hearing on social media that you should not give screens, especially new screens, like this very bright screen that we have today with a lot of colors to children under 15, because like it's bad for the brain. So
Mhm,
it's very bad that this is happening, and it's gonna only get worse with the new technology that's gonna come, and with AI, and screens are gonna be even more dominant in our cities, in our cars, in their in what we wear, because I've seen an ad for like bags with screens, so
Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
You can change the color of your bag by changing the color of your screen. So like we're gonna wear a screen. People are gonna wear a screen. So
Mhm.
it's gonna be a interesting time where we're gonna live. But yeah, like helping men is important because it's all about balance. Like I do have sensitivity to energy, and I can see that there is an energy of masculine, there is an energy of feminine. And we can embody both of them when we want. I
Mhm.
can be on my feminine, but I also can be on my masculine. And I had experiences where when I was very grounded into my masculine, I could help women soften and access different states of their energies
Mm.
that just make them shine and make them bloom. And it's so beautiful. And when you have this strong energy and you're grounded, you can accept more of her. Like I really feel like a receptacle for the feminine to grow on.
Mm.
So I do feel it's very important, to have that, to be able to 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 be in that energy and to feel good in that energy and say, like, I'm gonna be a man, I'm gonna be grounded, I'm gonna be the thing that makes me feel like a man. And like this, I'm gonna be my best self for women.
Mm. You know what? If you just stretch that out, I mean, we're all here because of that very energy that you're talking about, right? Like we all come from a seed and an egg through an act of love, however it happened. And I feel like the states of consciousness that our parents were at actually, in a big way has impacts in terms of the level of consciousness that is infused in that embryo that forms. And so that energy you're talking about, being grounded in that, that's the energy that creates worlds. It's what brought us all into being. So it is a powerful energy to cultivate and to come into alignment with. And I got to tell you, like Lightheart Vision, I've shared this a few times, but for years with my background in Indigenous wellness, I would talk about the miracle that we all are, like because of that seed and egg. We're now trillions of cells walking around, and we've normalized it. Not only are we trillions of cells, we're also a symbiotic being. We have 100 to 1,000 times more bacterial DNA in our body than we have human DNA. Like we are just this epitome of magic and miracles, and all working to heal, grow us. The intelligence of the body is so beyond our, I think, our best scientific comprehension at this point. And so, I would talk about how we're these miracles, but it was more of an intellectual understanding. But actually standing there, receiving my daughter emerging from the womb and holding new life, and the level of presence that she had, Asha, just looking in my eyes and just so there with me, because we did everything out of the system, total and natural home birth, no epidural. So Julia was fully in the sensation. Her consciousness was able to meet Luciana as she emerged. And what we found out interesting in doing our research is when women do take these suppressant like epidurals and stuff, it actually blocks oxytocin from the body, and it blocks that consciousness from going. So the fact that I feel like it was such a conscious birth, and there was definitely challenges that happened during it as well, but Julia was just magnificent. Luciana's presence it just hit me like nothing else. It was really the greatest miracle I ever experienced holding her. And it makes sense that her name means light, and to me, I mean, it makes, I could say I'm biased. It's the greatest miracle I ever see my first child. But what it did awaken within me is realizing we are all born in this way. Whatever the circumstances of our birth or conception, like we are all these miracles. And what would a world look like where we all walked around and witnessed one another as the unique expressions of consciousness that we are, as the unique miracles that we are, because we have all had such unique journeys and unique gifts. So I look forward to seeing that unfold more and more as we awaken as a species. Back to you.
It's very good. Yeah, it's very no. I was just taking it.
Yeah,
It's so
I
beautiful
know.
what you're saying.
Thanks,
Like
man. Appreciate it.
like witnessing the act of like of a life coming into existence, and it's so beautiful. Like we're here to gift that. This is one of the reasons. I do believe that we're not here to create something that is staying, with something that continues. Like the idea of like having your statues on a place is like beautiful. But it's really about saying, hey, like I enjoy this life. It's beautiful. It's amazing. But no, I'm just gonna pass on and just gonna vanish with what it was before.
Mm,
And there's no need of being like remembered for like 50, 100 years. But what is beautiful is that everything that exists within you is being transmitted through your DNA, and then it's gonna be also like change a little bit. So it's not just you, but there's something different, and there's this beautiful in this transmission, in this movement, this flow of life. It's beautiful, and yeah, this is beautiful.
well, that this inspired acronym for life came to me several years ago now, like probably more than a decade ago. Um, and my brain just is funny. I have a writer's brain, so acronyms are a big thing. But I think it's so funny, just to give context, that human language is so funny, especially English, because it's taken from so many sources, and we call the existence of everything, all of us, every event that has ever happened, every creature, everything that ever will be, that ever has been, and everything happening now. We call it one word, one syllable, four letters, life. And so I feel like that's so funny. It's just this like cosmic joke. It's life.
Yeah, man, it's life.
It's just
What else
life.
you want? I mean,
Like
it's so complicated that you cannot explain it, so you just state
yeah,
it. It's
just
life.
yeah,
Like
but
it's just like it's like it's like my brother. Like you just don't want to explain it. You just
yeah,
like you accept it the way it is. It's
yeah.
very complicated, so you just
Well,
you just take it.
the most two profound things that we could ever even, and I don't even think these are fathomable, life and love. It's the same thing, right? One word, four letters, one syllable. But the acronym that came to me for life is loving intelligence forever evolving. And what you just said is a beautiful expression of that, right? Like there's this intertwine of this intelligence that flows through us, it expresses genetically, and new things are added, new dimensions of experience, new perspectives. And I feel like this is such an important thing, in this kind of weird time we all came through with a lot of impositions on our species, a lot of us being told we're bad, we're killing the planet, old men on magazine covers standing in, next to a thing that says there's 8 billion people in the world and there shouldn't be one, like just this weird stuff that we've seen, and I really feel like, language is language. What I've learned from indigenous peoples is, in many different contexts, is our language gives such unique meaning and gives perspectives. Like a lot of the people up north, the Cree people, the Inuit people, they have so many different words for what we would just say is snow, but it's their whole universe. They have this totally different perspective, and there's so many different words of concepts that we don't even really. It might take a whole novel in English to say one word from different languages around the world. So our perspectives, those nuances that we not only get to add, but also get to create. Back to what you were saying, how important it is to create, and we're constantly co-creating in this beautiful world. So it is wonderful, man. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
The world is such an amazing thing, and life is such a beautiful thing, and like this, sometimes we want to use words to understand things, and sometimes we can just observe them and
Mm,
just have appreciation for them. And yes, yeah, using words is, I think words are really vehicles for understanding what's tangible and what's practical. And this is one plane of understanding life, of like, but there are things that you have to live in the way to understand. It's like I was often saying, like your purpose is something that is so complicated that you have to go through all the pain of your life in order to understand your purpose. It's not like I could give you a piece of paper saying like, this is your purpose, and
mm,
there's a you have a mission statement. No, it's like there are things that you need to experience to
mm,
understand them, and then we have these practical things that we can share through words and say, hey, there's some snow that is thicker and harder. We can use it to construction, and there's snow that is just beautiful, and we just can stare at it and like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. Like
Yeah.
when snow is covering a landscape, it's just from one day to the other, you're just like, wow, this is so amazing. You just want to stay inside with a cacao and,
Yeah,
and observe.
totally. Well, I just shoveled about a half a foot of snow before I came in here today. So yeah, we're
Wow.
we're getting a lot of snow happening. And speaking of words and language, I know this is a big part of hypnotherapy, and you brought it up. And I think some of our audience, you described helping people move from one track to a whole other track where they feel better. Can you talk a little bit about, what your experience with hypnotherapy is, and maybe, give your perspective on the importance of it? Because I feel like there's a big return of recognizing how important of a practice it is, and there's a lot of different ways of looking at it, right?
It, but when you start using hypnosis and when you notice the importance of the words, there are words you carefully use less, like the word try. Like I use the word try when I do hypnosis, but just to imply that maybe you're not going to be able to succeed. And in my life in general, I don't use the word try. It's like I'm gonna do it. I just sometimes by habit I want to say, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna use it, because I know that the subconscious, when you have built a very good rapport with the subconscious, it does everything you want. Like usually when I start hypnosis with people, and I give them some suggestions to show them how powerful it is. If you want, we can do a very quick exercise now.
Sure.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what I want you to do then, and if anyone is listening, you can do also the same to go through the experience. So I want you to take your hands and just put them flat on your desk, and just notice that one of your hands feels different than the other. And when you notice that one of your hands feels different than the other, you can gently close your eyes and allow that sensation of relaxation to spread from your hands to your forearms, your arms, your shoulder, your neck, and take over your whole body, allowing you to fully immerse yourself into a pleasurable experience. Now, just notice that your eyelids are so relaxed. They're so relaxed, even if you try moving them, they wouldn't work. And when you have the absolute certainty that no matter how hard you try, they wouldn't work, give them a test. And when you notice that they won't open, stop testing. Now, bring back your awareness into your hands. And notice that they too are so relaxed, even if you tried moving them, they wouldn't work. They wouldn't move. And once again, when you have the absolute certainty that they won't move, test them. And when you notice that you can't move your hands, that you can't lift your hand, stop testing. And allow this sensation of pleasurable relaxation to take over your whole body. And now notice that you are able to deeply connect with your subconscious creating a direct channel of communication with your subconscious. And to make it easy for yourself, you can open your heart so much that you can forgive yourself anything that happened in your life. Now allow your subconscious to communicate with you the most important thing that you need to change in your life and show you how easy it will be for you to apply this change. Because in fact, upon awakening, the coming days, the coming hours, the coming weeks, you will have clear evidence of this change happening. And every time you will notice that you are applying this change, you will reinforce your ability to change. In a moment, not quite yet, I will ask you to open your eyes and come back to this very moment. But before that, make sure that your subconscious will apply the change with certainty. Now, you can come back and open your eyes. Very good.
That's beautiful, brother.
Oh,
I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's what came to me is that playfulness that you talked about. Like I feel like there's an edge of that in this whole dance that we're doing, and I feel like hypnosis brings me more to that and realizes it opens the potential of that playfulness within. Because it's true, the serious epidemic and how often we take ourselves so seriously and we treat life so seriously. We give that meaning and then we tighten ourselves to it and we don't allow ourselves to receive greater possibility. So appreciate that very much. Yeah.
yeah. So just to come back to the wordings here, you know. So at one point I say, notice that one of your hands feels different.
Hmm.
So you have a right and a left hand.
Hmm.
They cannot feel the same because it would be confusing for your brain to be which hand is which hand. But because I said notice that one of your hand feels different, you will choose that one of your hands feels different.
Mm.
And by noticing that one of your hands feels different, and even if you know that one of your hands will feel different, you will choose that one of your hands feels different.
Mm.
And even me doing it for a long time, every time I'm listening to this, like, oh, my right hand feels different, my left hand, because you will find a slight difference. Oh, this one is hotter than the other, or this one is more relaxed than the other. You're convincing yourself that something is happening. And then I said,
Mm.
relax your eyelids so much that even if you try, so I'm not saying you have to try.
Hmm.
And trying doesn't mean you're gonna succeed. Trying means that maybe you're not gonna succeed. So I'm really putting here maybe you're gonna open your eyes, but you don't have to. Really, like, I'm just making you believe that
Mm.
I'm suggesting you to open your eyes. What I'm suggesting to not even bother doing this
Hmm.
because I'm also using a tone of voice that is very relaxing, that's very gentle, just very calm. And so you just want to listen to me. You don't want even to bother to what I'm saying, you know.
Hmm.
And then you just relax, and then you're like, oh, my eyes are not opening. Okay, so it works. And then I'm saying your hands won't work, and your hands don't move because you're relaxed. You don't want to. We're so stressed that most people, when I'm helping them to relax, it's just enough already for them to just like, you know what, I'm gonna relax. And then you're just removing the ego from the awareness because there's this thing of like, oh, something's happening that's magical.
Hmm.
And then you can just drop into the subconscious. And then I can say a few things, and the subconscious will react, will give you this. And because you trusted me for your eyes, you trust me for your hands, your subconscious will trust me for the change it has to do.
Mm.
And then there is one thing that I said that is very important is that you will notice
Hmm.
because you know that where your attention goes, energy goes and your focus grows. So what I'm saying is I'm saying you will notice that you will do something different in the coming days. I don't know what. I don't have
Hmm.
to know what, but I know that you will do something differently. Like, oh my God, I did that differently.
Hmm.
And just that will give you the awareness that you can choose to do it differently.
Mm,
And by doing some, like, I don't know, you're gonna make your coffee differently, you're gonna drive slower, you're gonna do something a bit differently, and you're like, oh, this is better. So this will remind yourself that you have the power to change.
mm,
And because you will do it, you will reward yourself by doing something differently. And
mm,
the more you will do it, that's what I say, the more you will do it, the easier it will be. So you're gonna be in a chain reaction of like having easier to change. And these are very like it took like 30 seconds.
mm, mm.
But if you do this exercise regularly, your life is just you like your kids, you can shift state anywhere, anytime you want.
Yeah. It's you're an excellent teacher, Asha, and I feel like that's such a powerful message to be able to change our state at will. I mean, there's a lot of top world teachers out there who teach the very same thing, but I feel like sometimes it's done in a setting that is like trying to say what state we should go in rather than allowing someone to find. Because to me, like I feel like the playful state, the state of wonder, is so important to live in. Whereas a lot of maybe people who are using like NLP or other hypnotic therapies, they're like preaching, you know, a peak state, peak state, peak state. And it's like, well, peak state is like a high performance, like high achievement. It's good that you can go there, but you don't want to be burning your engines all the time in that. And so what I love about your teaching is recognizing that you have this power as it's a creative faculty that we have to shift states based on the moment. We don't always want to be in a peak state. We don't always want to be in a playful state. Maybe sometimes we really need to be in just silence or presence, and so having that awareness is really beautiful. You've really brought such a beautiful presence and teaching here, Asha. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today?
Live one breath at a time, I would say. And the breath is something that I really appreciate as well. So the breath is always in the present moment. So whenever you're somewhere else in your mind or in stress, just watch your breath.
Mhm.
I before living with monks, I meditated every day with a monk in silence for 2 years, and we would just observe the breath in silence. And I realized that all the problems I thought I had would vanish by watching my breath.
Mhm.
And it's crazy how many problems we can imagine we have. And I learned something from NLP that you just mentioned and that I really love is two questions. Is like, what is the problem? And how do you know it's a problem?
Mhm.
So you could say like, oh, I have a problem. I don't know, like I'm gonna be late. And then you ask you, how do you know this is a problem? And then you will realize that you are creating the problem.
Mhm.
Because when you ask, how do you know this is a problem, you're gonna answer like what you believe is the
Mhm.
reason it's a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, this person's gonna be mad at me. How do you know that this person is gonna be mad at you? You think that person is gonna be mad at you, and
Yeah.
maybe they're gonna just be mad, and you're gonna be there. So these two questions, I really want people to remember them. Like, what is the problem, and how do you know this is a problem?
Mm.
Because these two questions only can solve 90% of the problems we have.
Mm.
And we know that 90% of the problem are just mind problems. But having these two questions allows us to get clarity on the fact that we are creating a problem
Mm.
and that it's not really a problem. It's just an idea we have.
You might have just put like half of entrepreneurs out of work, man. Because that's the talk of the towns, right? It's like solve problems. You got to find the problem, solve them. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's so true. Like, it's interesting too. I just want to share this with you. I think you would find it valuable. We talked a little bit about the ego drive. Um, and, you know, we don't hear this version of Yeshua or Jesus's experience in the desert because there's so much kind of dogma placed on him and assumptions made about his life. But that was his question after he experienced a very high level of enlightenment after baptism. Really, why he decided to become baptized, that he expresses in the letters, is he realized he wasn't using his gifts really to uplift anyone. He was getting in arguments with the rabbis. He didn't believe in what they were saying. He was working when he had to, to make money to do what he wanted to do. He was partying. He cared very much for people, but he realized, in his mid-20s that he wasn't really uplifting his gifts, and his a lot of his gifts had been degraded. So he wanted to make a change, and that's why he went to be baptized. And but what bothered him the most was seeing the problems of society, the sickness, the poverty, the challenges in his community, and he wanted to do something to help. And so after enlightenment, he was shown like reality, the reality of underlying all of existence is one of a mind that is just pure love and intelligence everywhere. And this startled him. And his first question was, well, if love is the foundation of reality, then why are there so many problems? Why is there sickness? Why is there poverty? And he was shown the image of a very young baby born of pure light. And as it grew into the world, it started taking on what he describes as chains and thongs based on its beliefs and the actions that it took against other people. So all of a sudden, it starts basically getting covered up in all these worldly kind of weights. And so what you said about like a lot of us, we create our own problems. I think it's probably true for all of our problems. Like we created these barriers. We've allowed these things to create weight on our shoulders by our shoulds of life. And then, when we do take action against someone, I feel like because we're all so interconnected, there is this natural system of law and order that eventually we have to make some kind of amends in that, or change our way of being so that it can allow just love to be only between us. I wanted to share that with you because I feel like it's such like everything that you're talking about and who you are as an embodiment of your soulful self is an expression of the same teachings that he tried to share with us more than 2,000 years ago. It's like we can return to a state of loving one another and be in our power, our true creative power, and uplift everyone around us. So I appreciate who you are, Asha. I really do. I really feel honored to know you as a brother and to be getting to know you as a friend. So I thank you very much for coming on. And I always have this one question. You might have already answered it, but I didn't frame it in the same way. And I love to ask people, if you had a megaphone and you could talk to everyone in the world at the same time and everyone could hear you, what would you say?
Well, with all you just mentioned about Jesus, I think like the really thing would be just really like to drop back in their hearts, and to but it really would be to say to people to stop worrying about all the things they worry about, and just like come back to the present moment, come back to what's really necessary, their family, their friends. And the more I'm growing, like the more I'm moving, the more I realize that I've spent so much time wanting to fill up boxes because I thought that my parents would be proud, and I was making myself unhappy for so long time. So I would just say, stop worrying all the things, like just start focusing on what makes you happy. How can you make others happy? Like this is the question that the ancient Egyptian would believe that when you would arrive in heaven, they would ask you, did you have a happy life? And did you make other happy through that life? So I think
Mm.
this is really the key, like make yourself happy, make other people happy, stop worrying about all the things, like having a lot of money, having a big villa, having all of these things are not making they're nice, like I really enjoyed having a big villa with a pool and all of that and making parties there. But in the end, that's not what's gonna make you feel good until your life. Like they're making yourself happy is more important first, and then you're gonna have all these things that will come to you if it's really necessary. But make yourself happy, makes people happy. Stop worrying about all of these things and just enjoy.
So beautiful, brother. I so appreciate that wonderful message. Thank you so much. Well, if there's nothing else that you want to share, I think what you just said says it all. I couldn't have said any better. So, I'd love to invite our daughter, Luciana, to just come and thank everyone for watching today, and to you and all those you touch, Asha, as well as to all our listeners, highest blessings and best wishes. And yeah, let's be in the moment and let's be happy and make one another happy. I think that's just such a beautiful mission of life. So thank you very much, brother.
Thank you.
And thanks for that beautiful hypnotherapy session. I mean, I got some insight, some really interesting insights. So I'm really grateful.
You will notice change happen on a daily basis.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Asha. All right. We'll see you on the flip side, man. Thanks for watching. You say ciao, ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.